Aha.
You turn it on, Dago.
¿Está listo? Welcome to Being in New York. I'm your host, Carlos David, and today we are with Dale, Señor Jabagat. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Can you introduce yourself and what you do, just for the people that don't know your work?
Everything.
Well, no, just all your life and everything. No.
Because I have this dual nature. I photograph. I'm also a physical therapist, as you know. Mm-hmm. So totally two different things that can't be farther apart, I think.
Okay. Why?
Okay, so there was this survey that came out maybe about 10 years ago. It was a list of the most stressful jobs in the world. And photographer came out as the most stressful job in the world. And the least stressful was the physical therapy.
Really?
Yeah, and I thought, is that true for me? And I suffer from a lot of stress. I have retinopathy that's caused by cortisol, which is the stress hormone. It comes and goes. It ebbs and flows, and it made me think maybe it's because the nature of photography being a job is demanding, while I could not think of a more relaxing job as what I'm doing to make money as a physical therapist.
I didn't.
So you didn't know?
No, and I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't think photography was such a stressful.
I guess if you were working as a commercial photographer, where the demands would be high, like if you were a wedding photographer and you'll deal with a difficult, what do they call wedding?
Bridezillas.
Bridezillas. Yeah, then that would be something that would be stressful, and or thinking of constantly losing files and discs and whatnot, then that would be stressful. Yeah. I get recurring dreams if I travel and I try to photograph that I left my camera, or if I'm being asked to photograph someone, I came to the shoot and nothing works. So that's a stress.
And you have dreams of this?
I do. I get recurring dreams about, especially when I travel, like leaving cameras behind. Passports, another thing. But cameras, conking out and not working. Film, I'm working in film, running out of film, or going somewhere where I can't find film. So
that's very interesting, because I always have two cameras, extra lenses, extra memory, all the things to. And when I finished the other day, I was doing this kind of fashion runway shoot, and it was not that long, but it was 4 hours or 5 hours altogether. And when you finish, is this sense of tiredness and like and then like, well, I was not doing any too heavy thing, but the stress
to work for someone else. I guess it's generally to work for someone else is stressful, but especially with photography, because that kind of what drives me to not work for someone else with my photography and just do it for my own sense of pleasure, to serve me and not anyone else. But the recurring dreams do help, because then if it happens in real life, you've already lived through it in a nightmare. So, which happened recently out in Mallorca, where I was 2 weeks ago. So, as you know, I use a heavy old Pentax camera. So I was putting the film in, and it wouldn't work. And all of a sudden, I dropped the film. And I thought, I'm going to only bring one film for the day because everything's expensive. And it's come to a point where I'm only photographing very little in a day, whereas before, when you were a young photographer, you want to photograph everything. Now you're just like, you've seen everything, so you want to wait for that special thing. So you only get one film per day. So I did not bring any film. Once I dropped the film into the water, I'm like, okay, okay. You're no longer mad at yourself because you're already prepared for this event to happen. So, which is another thing too, because you're photographing moments, you're photographing memories, events, but situations you'd like to remember. But at the same time, it gets in your way of experiencing the real thing. So once that thing happened last Tuesday in Mallorca when I dropped the film, I'm like, hey, that's it. You're now in the real world, and that's what you're supposed to be experiencing, and not the photograph of the experience. So, what do you think? I think that's some level of maturity, I would think.
Well, there's many things out of this that I want to see if I can get to all of them. But one is the evolution as a photographer, right? How has that experience been for you from I remember when we started many years ago, we were always with a camera taking photos of everything all the time, in the process of learning, in the process of, this love for it. And it was digital, so it was, we could just play a lot and figure out light and composition and all this. And I did that for a while until at some point it was this, what you also mentioned, the camera takes over the life, and at some point it's like, okay, I don't want that anymore, right? And then this constant struggle of how far into my life I want it to be, right? And, I do mainly studio work, so I can separate it in an easier way. But how you're doing a lot?
I sort of like get asked this question, are you still photographing? But I guess the kind of photography that we do, or I do, or I know I'm sure you do too, is more like a practice. It's not like really an activity, but it's more like, let's say one would practice yoga, or think of yoga, right? It's there to sort of like process your life, or how to evaluate your life, how to interact with life itself. So it's really not just about camera, but experiencing life and understanding life the way a writer would write about something. I can't write, but I write, but I've stopped writing. But now it's easier to process life that way with images. And I think I've always thought of photography as a means towards like that objective, which is how you process life and understand life. So so I remember you talking about evolution. I remember the moments when I thought, hey, this is a good way to understand life. And I remember the images that I saw. It was a album cover of Carole King, Tapestry. I don't know if you remember, you can look it up, but it was of her and a cat sat by the window, and there's just the light from the window. And I thought, that's a beautiful photo. And that's how I thought, hey, maybe I should make photographs. And then I remember the second thought I have from when I wanted to start photography was my brother had a camera, SLR. They were they were Rebels before, right? But this was back in 1984. And I thought, oh, look at this background. The background's blurred. And I thought, what made that blur? And so I remember someone telling me that's because, the technical aspects of the camera back then. So once you get through the technical aspect, all I really wanted to do was to blur the background, which was the easiest thing to do. And then that was it. Then I also remember losing that camera to to robbers, to the thief in the Philippines. So those were the beginnings, but now it's totally different thing now. We went through a whole phase where back in the 90s, I think, or no, the early 2000s, when the digital cameras came in, they were game changers, but the cameras made you lose some of that feeling of finding life. I thought, like, this was too mechanical. The pictures were so bland. And so that's why we come back full circle again to the photography we're doing now, or at least I'm doing now, which is analog, which is really experiencing life, because you take a photo and then you have to wait before seeing it.
That's a very interesting thing, and the question why you're so attracted to the film, and like, what are the things that make you?
So that's also a hard question for me, and also at the same time I know it, but it's hard to articulate. Film just has a texture that is life itself, right? You know, you captured photons, and then, well, the same thing with a digital camera, but the photons remain sort of like electricity, whereas in analog photography it becomes physics and chemicals. They're all physics in a way. But then another thing that sets analog photography apart is that today everything you take digitally has a sort of like a record, a data record, where some stranger can peruse or use to their advantage, to maybe commercial means that's very out of your control, right? Like, this data can be sold. He was in this spot, and then it records the name of the place that you were in, and then you get tons and tons of advertisements going to you, whereas an analog photograph, it's just you. No, it's not connected to the digital world. So that's an aspect that recently I've become more appreciative of. You know what I'm saying? Because no one knows. It's just between you and the digital camera. Yeah. So it's untouched by data in the digital world.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And
so yeah, that's a different aspect, because, you know, the photograph taken by an analog camera is also much prettier than a digital camera, I think, because I haven't seen any digital work recently, so I couldn't really make a judgment. I only know of the photos I see, but I'm sure digital can do anything right now. Yeah,
but the like now with AI, right, and right. with you know the new phones and the new technology and all, you can get these amazing things, and I think that in the end, it's about the experience of making the piece, right? It's the final piece is important, of course, but as a creator or as an artist, it's not about that. It's about how you get there, right? So I feel that with analog, and I don't do that much of a film, and I would love to do more, because of the process becoming more of an artisan process, right?
Right.
A thing of you're setting the film, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
It's whereas AI, artisanal intelligence. Someone said,
yeah, exactly.
I just thought of that, Mr. Tequila.
Yeah, you see?
But anyways, yeah.
So I see your work more as that, right? As even thinking, okay, I'm just going to have a roll of film. That means, I don't know, 12 or 15 photos, and that's it, right? Meaning that whatever you're doing through the day is going to be, in a way, finding those special
moments. Correct, yeah. Rather than fishing. Although you're always in danger of going back to fishing, because I also embrace the iPhone, right? But for different things, like the iPhone with a digital video, and then the editing applications can make photography fun, but fun is very different from fulfilling too. When you see a print of an analog camera and analog moments. But anyways, yeah, those are good things to think about, I think. When I'm on a trip, usually I'm just using, because the limitations too are financial, only limiting one roll of film for the day. Otherwise, you'll end up, you're going to burn a hole in your pocket. Anyways, that makes you wait. I'm sure it's been said a lot, but that makes you wait for the right moment, the right light, the right connections, especially the connection with what you're photographing, be it people or being a pretty landscape or the good light, right? It gives you, it makes you think twice before taking the camera.
I found this waiting and being patient very fulfilling lately, because I do a lot of this studio work and with a lot of digitals, and many times with commercial works, fashion and all this is like, photo, you're burning just, kind of that fishing moments and stuff like that. And slowly, I transition into, building more the photograph and just being more.
Right.
And I find very fulfilling this moment of just pausing and just having the conversation and just being there and at that moment and finding that for everyone becomes a completely different experience, right? It's a bit complicated sometimes in this when you're photographing clothing.
Right, because you're in the service of that, and there's nothing. Obviously, that's your objective. So yeah, if you're good at it, yeah, be good at it.
Yeah, but I found also that giving some time and just patience is really important in the sense of this is not just
right. There's a photographer called Nicholas Mueller, who's also a good writer. And he wrote about the photography of this Spanish photographer called Ricardo Cases. He made a book called El Porqué de las Naranjas, because he photographed oranges, but then he does digital anyway, so it doesn't even matter anymore. But Mueller's criticism of that work was that it was more about going beyond the surface symptoms of things and going to the mechanics of the world, like what is behind the symptoms, the surface symptoms of situations, of scenes, right? What makes them fall into place. So by me, I think my photography, and especially using my instrument, which is film, you become more attuned to waiting for those and going beyond the symptoms, the surface symptoms of things, and then going to the mechanics, the rituals behind cultures, behind people, behind language, behind music, behind you travel, so you're thinking about food, you're thinking about language a lot. So can you photograph what's behind those? And that's sort of like is facilitated by the slowness of the photography that I do, which is not to say fast photography is bad too, because like I said, I always have my iPhone and I take videos and I take live photos, which I think are very fun things to work with. Live photos, if you put it in an editor, they move. So now you're making photos and videos together. So yeah, you have to have space for that. But then to go beyond the surface symptoms, it has to be slow. Am I making sense, Carlos? Yeah, you have to be slow.
No.
It's slow.
It does. And I think that different tools are for different,
right, yeah,
right, and I think that in that sense you have very clear what are the tools, how are you
Right.
using them,
Right.
and that's one of the things that I really admire of your work, right? I really admire your film work, and in that sense of how it's presenting or it's going inside the what you're
Yeah.
showcasing, right?
Yeah, the stillness. Yeah, I think the stillness is important. Yeah, someone said that your photos are very still, and and I thought, yeah, they are very still. Like it's almost, the genre of street photography, where everything's moving, the light's going this way, things are happening. Whereas I'm drawn to scenes where there's just a lot of stillness. There's just nothing going on. But then the more I look at it, especially for me, then it becomes more contemplative. Like, what was going on that made this thing fall into place? This drop of water fell here. This rock looked like this in textures and trees.
Yeah. And I'm gonna move a little bit away from this, but connected, hopefully. How does being from Filipinas and now in New York, and how do you keep connection, or do you keep connection with your culture, and does your culture influences your work in some way? Have you managed to kind of bring together that? Or was that something at all?
That's important. I guess, yeah. I guess your background and your being Filipino is always there. But was I always conscious of that when I'm doing photography? Probably not. Yeah, because then that's too heavy of an anchor, I think, to be carrying around. Especially now, I'm only photographing when I'm traveling, and I'm traveling to this country and that country and this country. But at one point, I thought, oh, maybe my photographs were sort of like making connections of what I thought was familiar from home. Like if I go to a third world country and I'm like, that looks like something from the Philippines. So there's a touch of that. But lately, not anymore. I think I've been away for so long. And I've been away for so long, and I've been going more frequently home. So now it's all just a mesh of things like, hey, where am I? Like you're in Thailand, and then everything looks like the Philippines anyways. And then you're in Spain, and then everything tastes like the Philippines anyways. So maybe, yeah, there's the sense of familiarity you're looking for, and at the same time, a sense of strangeness. So there's that ambiguity again that I really like. Am I photographing this for that? Who knows? If it means something to me, it might mean something to someone else. And if that happens, then I think the work succeeded.
What do you consider more home, or where you consider home?
Home now. I guess Sunnyside. I'm very, very specific. Yeah, Sunnyside is home now, I think. More New York. New York, yeah. Look, I've lived here I left when I was 26. So yeah, almost about at the same amount of time in the world.
That's a tough realization, right? When you live, I've been here almost 20 years or more.
Yeah.
And you realize, I came.
And you know what they say? I think you become a New Yorker. What's the cutoff? It's like 10 years. So we're over the hill.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I really like of New York, right? You can come here and for a week, for a couple of weeks as a tourist, and you immediately feel like you belong to the city. Like it's a very welcoming in a way.
Right, because everyone's here from everywhere else. yeah, including those who were born in this country. They're just from everywhere else. There's yeah, even native New Yorkers, like they'd still say, "Hey, I'm Italian through and through." Say, so yeah, everyone comes from everyone else, and you don't feel that way in any other city, I don't think. Well, I've never lived in any other city. Well, I've lived in Houston, and you can see the difference. So yeah.
What would you advise to someone that is thinking of coming to
New York? Don't hesitate, boo. Yeah, you can't hesitate. It takes a special personality, I think. They always say grit, but when you come here and stay here, that means you belong here, and the city will find you or spit you out, I think. Yeah, I think so. If your circumstances are so that you have no other choice but New York, that means it was meant to be. If your circumstances in life was to make New York a jump-off point, a halfway point to where you're going, that's the way it was meant to be. But I do know a lot of people who leave and then come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to come back, and that's New York finding you. What about New York?
It spits you sometimes, right?
Yeah, it spits you out.
That's.
But does it really care?
Yeah, right.
It's just a city. So overall, it's you. Like, I live with a cat, right? Cat's like 17 years old. And, it wasn't my cat. It was thrusted on me like, hey, you have a cat one day, which happens a lot in my life. But if a cat could send you text messages, it won't. Right? Just doesn't care. And I think New York's like that too. If New York could love you, it won't. So you have to be in that mindset, I think, to want to be here. It's you. It's really you for New York. Because, New York's not a pretty city. It's not an easy city. But once you're here for a while, then you're just like, that's it. You become it, and it becomes you, I think.
So to the fill in the blank of New York is?
I would have said a bad word. But it's you. New York is you, I would say. It's in you. Like all the artists that are from New York, you definitely know that it's a New York sense of mind, right? Name one artist. Woody Allen is very New York, and you identify him as New York. Things like Basquiat could never have happened anywhere else. Spike Lee would never have happened anywhere else. You just know.
Yeah, Richard Foreman. I was thinking Richard Foreman.
Richard Foreman, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can't see that happening anywhere else. Richard Foreman in Paris would be like ensaimada with cheese and sugar.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I had someone once saying how they would be coming to New York, and they kind of said how New York confronts you with yourself, right, with who you are. And I didn't thought about it before in that sense, but then it's like, yeah, it does confront you with...
You have to deal with it, yeah.
Yeah, and how far you're willing. Like, it's a place where you can try to pursue whatever you want. And
things are possible. It makes it possible.
Yeah, and at the same time, it makes it so hard, right? So it's both of the things, right? But you can't pursue it. Like, okay, well, you can pursue anything anywhere, right? But this is a place where it can be at certain levels and in in like a
because-
massive way or a
Correct.
short way. Like, yeah,
Right, because in terms of your photography, you may be able to do this probably if you had lived somewhere else. You didn't have people that you'd want to photograph or would have the same wavelength as you. I'm sure there are other cities like that. Paris might be something like that. But yeah, New York is New York. Like I wouldn't reach the level of understanding I have of photography if I hadn't lived here. Because I went to institutions that you sort of like shake you up your ideas about photography and take it to another level, and you meet other people who knew how to challenge your thoughts about your ideas about the art. So yeah, and then meeting you, meeting Paco, meeting whoever. So I couldn't imagine that if I had lived in somewhere else.
Yeah. And this is not to say also that
It just happens easily. It's facilitated.
yeah, exactly. Like I know many artists in other places that are fantastic,
Right.
and what they do is incredible and beyond. It's just to say that this city also has this kind of things that can offer, right? And if you're
Right.
open to it, there's a lot. And easier access in a way than in other places, right? Where I'm come from, I mean, it was impossible at the beginning. Now it's bigger, but it was so complicated. I want to go back to your photography and into a lot of the way, and you kind of covered it in a way, but I just want to be a bit more into it. When you're photographing people, and that's in B, the project that we were working together, I really wanted your eye because of the way you can photograph situations that I'm seeing the same way, but my eye is completely different, right? So I'm going to focus in a different way in that moment. And I'm not very clear of the question because it's very broad, but when you're photographing, where you're like an assignment, right? You've done many assignments for magazines or for newspapers and all. When you're kind of assigned in the sense of, okay, you're going to do portraits of this person in their environment, what are the thoughts that go through your process of saying, oh, this is, how do you get to the images?
That's one of the hardest questions to answer, because like you always go out there with a plan, and then the situation doesn't facilitate your plan. Like the light's terrible. You see, I like photographing with plants in the background. There's no plants. So what do? So you just have to just photograph. Usually it's more like a timing for me than an idea of what I want the person to do. Usually it takes 10 minutes. Sometimes I do this trick where I'm pretending that I'm already taking the picture, because, I have to save film. So I'd say, hey, do that. That's great. But then I haven't taken the photo until 10 minutes, 20 minutes later, the warm up has finished. And so then things start happening. And then you become attuned to what you're going for. Because really it's all about feelings, and feelings are, again, ambiguous. And I guess it has something to do with the influences of other photographers that I look out to. A lot of stillness. You say there's an ache, but I don't know if there's ache that I'm looking for. But I think it's the stillness that gives you that melancholy. I think that shows up. And then yesterday I was in a lab in Brooklyn, and the owner of the lab's like, hey, you got a lot of beautiful people in your Instagram. So I looked that night, and there were a lot of sort of like beautiful people, for lack of a better word, attractive people in that I photographed, but they were attractive. I didn't even think of them as attractive. I don't ogle when I make my photographs. I just thought, let's photograph this person. There's something attractive in them. But if it's melancholy to some person, if it's ache for some other people, then that's great. It worked. But if it's vanity for other people, that's good too. So there's that. If the people you're making portraits of transcends just a pretty face and becomes about reminders and markers of emotions, I guess that's what's important. So, and then of course, attractiveness is a way to reel you in, but it has to align, I guess, with your values as a photographer. Like, and if it doesn't, that's fine too. To see, everything's just fine. So, because it doesn't matter what you're intending to do, but that the person looking at the photo is feeling. Like, even if you didn't say, hey, be acheful, hey, be melancholic, hey, be truthful, as long as there's, well, if there's truth in it, so I think you've done half the job. I guess that's what I like to come through to the photos.
No, because I think a lot of and I ask this question because I feel a lot of the work you do feels very raw, very emotional, as you said, like very what's kind of happening in the moment. You're very open to the moment, right? And it's interesting what you mentioned, right? Even you have a plan, but then you have to readapt and all. Yeah. And to have this openness to, okay, well, you know, I'm not gonna force to make that plan happen where, you know, I can set up everything, but more I'm gonna adapt to life as life is evolving.
Right. And then truth will come out. I guess that's what we all are striving for as artists, is like truth. Is to feel and ring true, I think. What do you think, Carlos?
Well, that's a very, very complicated question, right? In the sense of what is truth nowadays, right? But I find it as a how do you call it? The light when the boats
the beacons.
Yeah, right. Like the
lighthouse,
like a lighthouse. Yeah, like, you know, a guide of what the goal is, right? In a sense of no, not this politically messed up where it has become the idea of truth, right? But in the sense of what the spectator is able to perceive, right? Yeah.
I guess, yeah, truth is what you're looking for. If you're an actor, you want to be truthful. If you're a writer, you want to be truthful.
Yeah, yeah. And you want in the end is how the spectator can receive that. I find a lot in my work now, and this is why I'm doing these interviews, right? That it's not only for me and the medium I want to play with or work with is not anymore just the photograph, but also kind of the people I'm photographing and all the elements that are around, right? And how do you find, in that sense, the constriction of you know, when you're making a portrait of someone, in the end, it's just what you're showing, right? Like,
right, they're projecting something. Yeah. Does it matter in the end, like what you're projecting or what they're projecting? I've always had this sort of like intriguing belief in this idea that the intentions of the artist doesn't matter in the end. Like, you keep it to yourself, but whoever's interpreting your photo, if he takes that truth for himself, if he feels all of a sudden he has to change his life because of your photo or because of your artwork, then that's it. So yeah, in the end, it's out of your control whether whether that frame did something that you intended it to do. But beyond that, what the other people looking at it or experiencing it perceive, that's more interesting and more important.
I have a tough question in that sense. Do you have, as artists, we're always like putting things on us and like punishing ourselves and all of it. Do you have a photograph that you feel like, oh yeah, this photograph I feel very proud of, very happy of, and that you managed to see someone's reaction to it?
Yes, I do. I have it printed. I have it in my wall. Yeah, but that's something very personal, because then it was my perception of the thing that I didn't intend myself to find, you see? And it was a photograph of someone that got double exposed with trees. And that person at that time was undergoing some psychological, and the way the photograph came out was him looking at it straight at the camera, but trees coming out of his eyes. And I thought, look at that. Did I intend this? Did nature intend this? Did the camera conk out at the same time? And so I thought, hey, this photograph was an accident, and you'll never be able to make a photograph like that. So yeah, I should revisit that photograph. It's there. And so those are the accidents, and those are what Nicholas Mullner had said, where you're going beyond the surface symptoms. And what transpired, the exact moment that gave you this accidental moment, right? The tree wasn't supposed to be photographed. It was supposed to be a photograph of a person who was undergoing this mental health crises. And all of a sudden, the camera didn't work. It didn't roll forward. And so you snap the tree, and then there's the two pictures together, and it just looked, hey, this is what's going on in his mind. And to you, doing the photograph by accident, it just feels like you've achieved something. And I've never done another photo like that.
But that's the magic of it, in a way, right? Because the accident could happen to you because you were doing this, right? Like if you
right,
were not,
if you weren't doing anything, it wouldn't have happened.
Exactly. So I think that,
so yeah, and I guess that's how I imagine painters would achieve what they're doing too, because I can't imagine painters planning, hey, I'm gonna make this, and then they throw paints at the frame, and then all of a sudden something comes up. I don't believe it.
Yeah, Pollock, right?
Jackson Pollock. Yeah. So, or anything for that matter. I was at Pablo Picasso Museum in Barcelona, and all of a sudden he just painted. I've heard of the blue period before. I've never seen any paintings from his blue period. I didn't know that I was at the blue period gallery, and I just thought I saw this painting of rooftops that he did. It was very banal. It was like the most mundane thing of rooftops. All of a sudden, I guess I get goosebumps. And so now thinking of it, I'm getting goosebumps again. And then why? Did he intend for me to get goosebumps? Like, I just thought this picture is so ridiculously simple and silly. It was just blue, like you were under moonlight looking at it. So I imagine he probably didn't plan for me to get goosebumps, but I did, right? He just thought, oh, I'm gonna put a blue paint here. I'm gonna make this fade a little bit. And then all of a sudden, this seems right. And then he's like, okay, put it in a frame. And then all of a sudden you're looking at it and you're feeling emotions. So yeah, that's successful artwork.
Yeah, the beauty of art in that sense, right? That it will help us put or express the things that we cannot, the things that are happening
in real life. Yeah, real life. You made it happen. Like there's a poem called "The Anecdote of the Jar," right? So in it says, I put the jar up on a hill, and then things happen to the jar, like trees sprouted from the jar, and it becomes a thing, a monument of human intervention. Because art is that, like there was nothing, and then you put something there, and then it became something. Same as music. There was nothing, you put a sound there, and became something for something. Food, right? There was nothing, and then you put a carrot and an onion together, and then it becomes something. So same with your work, like, hey, there was nothing there, and you put a light and a person, and then it becomes a portrait. And you're telling this person to look like the sun's hitting your eyes, and then it becomes something. You put music on to bring melancholy. Yeah. You made things happen. You put a jar up on a tree, up on a hill. What do you think, Carl?
I think they're going to have some lunch and put something in their belly. Dale, thank you very much for this.
See? I understood that silence, bro. I was like, let me see what I can do to prepare for this interview. And then I did not.
Well, you just traveled to Spain.
I did, and I said, let me get on a delayed flight so I can delay this thing.
No,
it wasn't.
Because I was checking. No, there's no delays.
No, there was a delayed flight, but it still made me delay 2 hours. Like, well, am I ready for this?
You didn't call me again? Oh, you
I wasn't ready, man. I wasn't ready. So I was like, okay, I'll be ready next week. And then yesterday you texted me, bring 4 more tire. I was like, what?
You went, perfect excuse, I'm not gonna go.
Okay, let me bring a 4 more tire. All right, I think I aced it.
I think we did. Very good.
All right, it's on you now.
Now you can relax.
No,